Well, the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf, joins me now on Newsnight. Thank you so much. Good to see you. It's been quite a while. Yes. First off, let's talk about the state of the manufacturing sector very briefly before we get into, how is the manufacturing sector doing now?
Well, unfortunately, the manufacturing sector appears to be one of the most vulnerable sectors within the context of the current reforms. You know, the reforms had major impact on the exchange rate and the energy costs and interest rate. And if you look at the nature of manufacturing operations in manufacturing is highly exchange rate or is highly import dependent. So they depend a lot on foreign exchange, both for the raw materials, both for their equipment, spare parts, and so on.
Right.
And manufacturing operation is also highly energy intensive. So when you see considerable increases in the cost of forex, in the cost of energy, you can imagine the kind of impact it will have on manufacturing. So the manufacturing sector has been squeezed significantly as a result of some of these reforms. And you can see also what is happening with respect to the return to monetary policy orthodoxy.
Right.
You know, that is driving, monetary policy to be able to tame inflation. You have seen how that has also driven up interest rates.
We've heard some experts say, look, instead of the MPC focusing on interest rate hikes, it should focus more on stabilizing, the forex.
The forex, of course. That will have more impact, because when we tighten too much of the monetary policy, it has a way of stifling investments. And these manufacturers, of course, they need lower cost funds. They need funds that are also of longer tenure. So from whatever way you look at it, the manufacturing sector seems to be one of the hardest hit or worst hit within the context of these reforms. So that is why, of course, we have no serious issues about the reforms. The reforms are necessary, to correct some of the dysfunctionalities that have accumulated over the years.
So, specifically the subsidy removal and floating of the naira?
Yes, those two.
Those two.
Yes, and of course the decision of the central bank to continue to tighten interest rates. That has also affected the cost of fund. So those three things have affected the cost of operation, the cost of production, and that means that their prices will go up. And when you are dealing with a consumer situation where the purchasing power is weak, you can imagine the consequences.
And many manufacturers have closed shop.
Yes. So
let's talk about some of the policy adjustments that the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is asking for. In specific terms, what kind of adjustments does the government need to put in place in a way that can save the manufacturing sector from going further down? Well,
the government has already put some laudable policies in place within the context of the economic stabilization plan. The DG of a man referenced some of them. There is a policy on the pharmaceutical industries, which removed the import duty. and VAT on manufacturing raw materials and medical equipment, at least to tackle the problem of high cost of medication, drugs, and all of that. Then we have the Presidential Gas Initiative, which also removed import duty and taxes on CNG vehicles, electric vehicles, renewable energy equipment, and all of that.
But the issue of CNG, for example, people are complaining it's quite, it deepens your pocket. It will cost a lot for you to do this conversion.
Yes.
But in the long run?
In the long run, but again, these are the things, if you talk of subsidy, because subsidy itself is not a bad thing.
Right.
It depends on what you are subsidizing. Conversion kits should attract heavy subsidy. Right. Transiting to renewable energy should attract heavy subsidy. These are the kind of subsidy, so that it will be easy for both citizens and corporates to migrate from the use of fossil fuel, even from the use of electricity, to renewable energy solutions, which could be cheaper,
right,
which could be more environmentally friendly. So you need incentives to be able to drive that kind of transition. The same thing with the CNG that you talked about.
Yeah.
You know,
Let's talk about
and he also talked about very important thing about implementation of policies. These policies are laudable. They are good. They are going to help, you know, the production processes, lower costs, lower operating costs, and all of that. But the implementation lag.
What do you think is responsible for this gap, you know, this disparity between coming up with excellent policies and the issue of implementation?
No, I think it has to do a lot more with the bureaucracy. Because, you know, the bureaucracy is like the engine room of government. When you come up with policies at the political level, it is for the bureaucracy to implement. So we have not seen that sense of urgency at the level of the bureaucrats. And something has to be done about that. So that when the president makes his pronouncements, I mean, we are talking of an executive order.
What can be done? Do you take the bureaucrats out of the way? What exactly?
No. I mean, there has to be a way to manage them. There has to be timelines. And there has to be consequences. If a timeline is given, pronouncements have been made, this policy has to be effective within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, within 4 weeks.
That sense of urgency seems to be lacking when it comes to... Yeah.
So that is very critical, at least for policy implementation.
Right. Now, I mean, confirm this number, 1.5 trillion in losses to the manufacturing sector. What are the implications of allowing things to go on the way they are now? And the importance of getting, you know, the fiscal authorities and the monetary authorities to actually, you know, converge in a way that the manufacturing sector can begin to see gains.
Well, as to the losses, of course, I think these are figures from the Manufacturers Association.
Yeah.
They must have done their due diligence to be able to come up with this kind of figure. But what that points to is the challenges that the sector is facing. And this is a very critical sector for any economy. We are talking about production. We are talking about economic security. We are talking about the desire to rely less on imports. We are talking about job creation. This is where all of these things will happen. So that means that if the sector is facing this kind of challenges, then something needs to be done, along with some of the recommendations that was made at this conference.
But you heard from President Tinubu that his economic policies so far are working.
Well, we will not say that they are not working.
Okay.
We will not say, because, I mean, we have seen some impacts.
In what area specifically?
I mean, if you look at the forex environment, yes, we have seen some forex depreciation. But we are beginning to see some stability. We are beginning to see intervention by the CBN, you know, to ensure that the rate stabilizes. We are seeing the impact of the forex reform on government revenue. We are seeing the impact of forex reform on non-oil exports. Because we have never had it, there has never been any better incentive for export than what we have now.
Right.
Because one of the...
But still exports of primary goods, not tertiary.
Not tertiary,
right.
But that is going again to manufacturing. Because of the challenges of manufacturing, value addition has been difficult. So for us to migrate or elevate the level of exports to the level of manufacturing or processing, we have to create the right environment for manufacturing. Which is what all this conversation is all about. We talk about structural issues, we are talking about energy costs, we are talking about financing costs, we are talking about...
And also calls for single-digit loans.
Exactly.
How realistic is that, really? Is it achievable?
It's achievable. What we need to do is to create a financing window, development finance window.
Okay.
That is the whole essence of development finance.
We'll have
BOI, Bank of Agriculture, Development... We need to further capitalize them, so that they'll be able to support the real sector of the economy.
Thank you so much. It's been a delight having you, Muda Yusuf, Dr. Muda Yusuf, CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise.